everybody. Happy Tuesday and welcome back to another pep talk with the AutoCrit team. My name is Katherine. I am the coach of Team Pantser during AutoCrit's Novel 90 Writing Challenge, and it is such an honor to be here with you today talking about multitasking. So while we are bringing everybody in, getting everybody settled for today's pep talk, I want to hear how many of you, like me, struggle to find balance when it comes to writing. Balance is a tricky thing. It's been my focus word for the year. So I felt very privileged to get to share some of the things I have been learning this year with you guys, and hopefully that will encourage you on your own journey to multitasking, to keeping real life balanced with your writing journey, with your challenge goals, with your author business goals, if you are wanting to write and publish as a profession. We're going to talk about all of that today, but I am so glad you are here. Definitely give us a shout out and let us know as we go through whether you have any questions or thoughts. We'd love to hear them. So let's get started. So, who all is juggling a lot right now? Life can hit hard, and sometimes we're not sure how hard it's going to hit until we try a challenge like this one. So, a lot of us are juggling friends, pets, self-care, family, work, along with hobbies, and our writing falls somewhere in this picture, but where exactly does it fit? Well, the reason I'm asking this today, because we've already had a pep talk in the past about prioritizing our work and finding our writing why, is just a reminder that multitasking as authors can take many different forms. There's not one surefire process that's going to work for every single person. It is highly individual. But if you understand your writing's priority in your own life, if you find your own writing why, then that will dictate how you need to go about multitasking moving forward. So remember, every why is different. We write for passion, we write for business, some of us write for both. So give us a shout out real quick. Where do you fall on this list? Is this a hobby? Is this a passion project? Is this a dream? Is this something you do to drive people to your business, like a lead magnet? Is it something you do because you want writing to be your business? Or is this a mix? You have some books that you write for passion, some you write for business, and some you write for business that also happen to be things you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be all exclusive in one nice, neat little package. But we have to find that why. And if you haven't seen the video on how to find that why yet, it is in our Author Pep Talk playlist. So here's how priorities change a little bit, depending on whether you're writing as a hobby or whether you're writing as a business, that passion versus the work side. For people who write as a hobby, we have some top priorities that cannot be put off. Loved ones, self-care, work, the bills have to be paid. We have to take care of our own health, and we may have commitments to friends or family or pets or all of the above that take priority over the hobbies in our life. And it doesn't mean that the things that aren't on this list aren't important. It's just these three things tend to take precedence more. Meanwhile, on the writing side, top priorities when you're writing for a business, top priorities tend to lean a little more toward what you see on the right. Loved ones and self-care are still up there at the top, but your author business is now your work. So your priorities shift. And just like anything else, the three top priorities in your life get the most of your time, right? And the more time you give it, the harder it is to multitask while juggling it. So let's tackle the business one first, because those of you who are here, maybe you're using Novel 90 to propel you toward writing full time like Becca does and like Kat does. Maybe you are here because you're a person who's writing for passion, who's dabbling, thinking whether this is what you want to go, and you're looking for information on what that looks like. Well, let's dive in. Let's see how we can balance. I'm making a new word. Balance work and life together in our priorities. When writing is your business, it has the same role in your life as any 9 to 5 job. It is replacing your 9 to 5 job if it is paying your bills. But you're the boss, which means you get some flexibility. Multitasking when writing for business has some key considerations that you need to bring with you to do it well. The first is to be intentional with your time. Full-time effort means this is a full-time job and therefore hopefully full-time pay, right? A lot of us don't get there overnight. That means we have to be especially mindful of that transitionary period where I am working full-time to pay my bills. And then I'm also writing. And then I'm writing more and more and more, and hopefully scaling back a little more and more and more on the writing side or on the corporate job side until I can make a switch, because we can't necessarily just all go out and quit our jobs. So this transition could be slow, and making sure we're intentional with the time we set apart to make this happen is going to determine whether or not you ever hit full-time levels, right? Scheduling time for self-care, for your family, for your friends, and for other hobbies that are not writing, things that let you unplug, refill your creative well, and honestly just disconnect from the job element so that you don't lose your love of writing, are just as important as the work that has now become this passion job. When you're writing for business, save pantsing for your first draft. Pantsers write full time just like planters and planners, but save it for your first draft. Don't come into writing as a business and go, oh, if I have time for it today, it'll get done. That is a surefire way to not get it done, because life has this irony to it where it will keep throwing things at us to distract us otherwise. Instead, we need to plan our business. And yes, the queen of pantsing is telling you to plan. Plan your business out. And what are we planning? We're planning budgets. We're sitting down and mapping out smart goals, specific goals that are measurable. Today, I will do XYZ, and it is achievable for that day. It is related to your publishing journey, and it is time bound. It has a deadline that holds you accountable. These goals and this budget dictate the turnaround time that you can put for each book when you release your books. You have to be realistic about this. And this is going to make the marketing plans easier and break it down into chunks that you can do a little bit every day as part of that business. And this will help you keep all those balls in the air instead of them dropping when you start multitasking between planning a book, writing a book, editing a book, and marketing multiple books, and networking, and replying to readers, and doing all the things that come with author business. Planning out how you are going to approach it is essential to success. Now, there's a lot of different plans that you can use, and a lot of different organizational tools. But whether it's a Trello board or a spreadsheet or another app of some kind, definitely lean into organization to keep you on track. Again, treat this like a job. If you got hired to work 9 to 5 for a publishing company, wouldn't you bet they'd have you tracking your projects somehow, your process somehow, your progress somehow? This is the same thing. Find some way to say, here is what needs to be done, and give yourself the status updates. And that will help you, again, not drop any balls while you're trying to keep everything going. Now, there's so many plans and structures out there that this sample is literally just one of a multitude of options. But I wanted you to see a breakdown of how keeping all those tasks, the marketing, the editing, the writing, could look if you treated this as an author business and you replaced your 9 to 5, or, your 8 hour workday job 5 days a week with this and kept the other 2 days for yourself. So one sample that you could do is from 8 to 9 a.m., read the previous day's work and edit it. And then from 9 a.m. to 12, write for the day. Those are 3 hour chunks. From 12 to 1, take a lunch break. Take a nice long lunch. You're working for yourself, so why not? Go out, refill your creative well, take a walk, eat, call somebody on the phone. Try to avoid the temptation to work. Just because you're working for yourself as an author business does not mean that you don't need to disconnect. And you should not be working in your time off. Take some time to disconnect so that you can be more targeted when you get back. Be purposeful about the breaks that you take. From 1 to 2, instead of diving right back in and drafting, let's shift to craft. We are all learning all the time. One thing, if anything, about the publishing industry that stays constant is its ability to change. The publishing industry today doesn't function like the self-publishing industry that I got into back in 2020. This is not the same industry that it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So we have to be willing to adapt and to improve. This craft hour could be time to take a class, do research, maybe adjust the timing a little bit and take a, club event at AutoCrit or something if you wanted to, or go to a special YouTube conference or attend a summit. Do something to further your writing education. From 2 to 3, spend an hour building your platform. Reply to social media comments and to your emails from readers. Engage with followers and engage with your peers, the people who lift you up when your books go out. From 3 to 4, we're going to focus on planning marketing. This is the space where you're going to come in and plan book release related things or marketing opportunities like live events. So you can use this time to research and schedule book promotions. Set up newsletter swaps. A newsletter swap is where you say to one author, hey, we write the same genre. Would you feature my book in your newsletter? And in exchange, I'll feature your book in mine or on my social media, right? We can plan out how we want to do a book release or ARC copies, or whether or not we want to query, or maybe we research agents. Spend this 3 to 4 p.m. hour dedicated to the business side of what makes writing an author business. And then finally, from 4 to 5, that could be an open hour. So warm down for the day by wrapping up with another hour of writing or coming up with specific SMART goals for what needs to be tackled when you come back tomorrow. If you were to do a plan like this one, this would leave you a significant chunk of time every day to do other things. Spend time with your family, your friends, your cats. Spend it on other hobbies, going to the gym, reading for fun. Gasp. Yes, you could fill it in with other supplemental things like extra classes, extra club events, check-ins, contests, stuff like that. But you just spent 8 hours working on your bookish things. So this gives you some extra time to reclaim your life. The average writer writes about 1,000 to 2,000 words per hour, depending on their typing speed. Please do not feel bad if this is not you. You are not alone. But the more you write, especially if you write 3 to 4 hours every day, every single day for work, the faster you will get over time. So 1,000 to 2,000 words per hour. If you wrote during that, with that pace, then you could write a 50,000 word novel every 9 to 17 work days. That's 2 to 4 calendar weeks. So it is not impossible to think that you could put out an entire book during Novel 90s Writing Month this November, which is going right now and free to sign up for. It's not out of the realm of possibility that you could then potentially put out multiple books every year because we're being intentional with our writing time, with our editing time, with our marketing time, and we can adjust the schedule as needed. Remember though, we work to live. We do not live to work. If you are self-employed, and this would count in my mind as self-employed, we are the owner and operators of our own businesses in a lot of ways. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not saying this is going to be a legal business. Go consult with a legal professional for that. But if we're stepping up to become our own bosses, to fund our own lives, to make a full-time living for ourselves, it can be tempting to throw every spare moment into making a business happen, and other things slip to the wayside. We need to schedule in the time for what really matters, or we will lose sight potentially of what matters. So if you need a fully fleshed out schedule with the times you will spend with people who you love, or with things that you love that aren't writing, or doing volunteer work, or doing whatever it is that really calls to you outside of your work, your job, then do it, because this is supposed to enable you to live a fuller, happier life, not take away from what you are aiming to do, right? All right. People who are writing for business, challenges like Novel 90 can help you adjust to the author business habits that you need to be successful. AutoCrit's Novel 90 Challenge is free. We spend 1 month planning, 1 month writing, that's going on right now, 1 month editing in December, with the goal of having a completely finished publication ready book in that 90 days. So if you want a little guidance and you need the accountability to make yourself show up and to do that writing and to put in that work and to learn the craft, then this is a good way to come do it among a community of peers. All right. We finished talking about writing author business stuff. We can all breathe. You got this. We're shifting to talking about writing as a passion or hobby. This is for people who write for a passion or hobby as the primary goal. And if they make money, great. But if not, that was not the main motivating factor. When writing is your passion, your hobby, it takes less time than a business because it's a hobby. But it's still a key part of your self-care and your happiness. Multitasking when writing as a hobby shifts focuses a little bit. We need to be upfront with the role writing plays in our self-care. Hobbies have an important role in our life. Passion projects have an important role in our life. They keep us focused on what really matters while we're doing the 9-to-5 grind. They give us a creative outlet. They anchor us to a part of ourselves that would normally be hidden away. They give us a moment of joy. They give us a moment to focus on ourselves and build up something positive within ourselves before we move on to the rest of the week, to the rest of life. And while they are a small part, they are an important part. You don't need an excuse to enjoy a hobby, whether that's a sport or a craft like writing, or traveling, or trying different foods. You don't need an excuse to enjoy a hobby, nor do you need to justify it to other people. Writing is just as valid a hobby as anything else. So quit making excuses for something that you love. When we're talking about multitasking as a hobby, we also need to guard our time, because writing as a job, if we get to the point where we do write full time as a job, makes it a little easier to carve out writing time. So many times we coaches here at Novel 90 hear real life hit me hard, as if we, ourselves included, because sometimes we forget this too, we forget that writing is part of real life. What you are saying when you say my hobby, my passion, all of this isn't part of real life, is saying that things I enjoy that don't bring me money or support my loved ones right this second are not valuable. Now, it's okay to have periods where you're too busy to do your hobbies. It's okay to have periods where you can't afford to do your hobbies. That's not the same thing, though, as not having the desire or interest to do them because life happened, right? Things we prioritize are things we need to guard, and we don't need to lose ourselves caught up in everything else, the whirlwind that is everything else, or you will never get it done. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, this is your sign that this is the moment you need to make a decision to commit, no matter how small, to making time for something that you love. Like any hobby, writing should be a regular part of your life. If you decide you're going to take up tennis or snorkeling or badminton or painting, you are going to have to commit to show up, to practice, to participate in competitive events, maybe. You're going to do gaming, like tabletop RPG. You're going to do the dressing up, cosplaying, whatever it is you're doing, you have to commit time to do it. And it has to be a regular part of your life, not a every couple of years thing. So if you give this just the spare change of your time, you probably won't feel fulfilled with your writing as that hobby because it's not serving that role, that creative outlet that you need it to have in your life. So you should make it a regular part of your life, but how much you have to give it is up to you. It also shouldn't push out other important priorities. Sometimes we have this pendulum effect that we do nothing but this hobby in all our spare time. We hyper fixate on this thing, and then the rest of life sort of pauses, and then we come out of that time and life resumes. And by effect, we can end up creating a division mentally in our mind where writing is not part of real life because your real life goes on hold. That's not healthy either. The goal is to find balance, to find that line. And where that falls for you is highly personal. Be transparent with your loved ones if you have loved ones or a roommate or friends that you live with, on the fact that writing is your main hobby of choice, if it is, or where it falls in that list. If you took up drums as a hobby, wouldn't you tell those who lived with you that, hey, I'm interested in drums, I'm going to start taking drum lessons, because they're going to be subjected to your drums whether you want them to hear it or not. I guess you could get electronic ones and put the earphones in, but they're going to see the drum set come in, right? If you take up, we were saying tennis earlier, if you take up tennis, they're going to notice the rackets and the clothes and the stinky tennis shoes, right? And they're going to notice when you leave the house at weird times and go out without a coat in the frozen tundra to do your tennis practice because you're that devoted, right? So writing is the same thing. They're going to notice anyway. So be transparent. This is the hobby that you have chosen to pursue, and that's okay. They don't have to have your excuses. You don't owe them excuses for why you love what you do. But understanding is respectful on both sides. Even if they can't understand, at least showing respect in the form of acknowledging that this is important to you is going to go a long way in making sure that the bitterness doesn't creep up about why maybe, your partner is always writing and they're not. It's going to create a better environment when you're up writing at 2 a.m. and maybe your roommate would rather you be sleeping if you share a room. There's just so many things that setting yourself up for success by transparency could do in the long haul. Finally, before we get into our sample week for this one, when you are multitasking as a hobby, consider some accountability. And accountability can take a lot of different forms, but I highly suggest peers, fellow writers, who get it, who know what it's like to have a full work and family related life and not have all the time they wish they could be writing. So, regardless of your hobby, again, sports, music, other crafts, having other people who get it can help you feel seen, can help you be understood, can give you guidance when you start to falter, can give you feedback, and can help celebrate your wins in ways that those in your life who don't get it won't be able to. And it just helps all around the board. So consider getting some accountability. So I showed you a sample multitasking plan for people working for a job, but let's take a look at another sample. Now, just like the one working for a job, the one where you work for or you write for a hobby is again done so many ways. Some people have hours every day to devote to hobbies. Maybe they're retired, kids are grown. This is what they do. Some people barely have 15 minutes a day to give. So find a balance that works for you. Just as an example, let's say you have 5 hours, 30 minutes to a day, 5 days a week that you can give to your book. 6 days in this example. This would be a 5-hour writing hobby a week. So on Monday is a 30-minute rest day. Set up your SMART goals for the next week's productivity sessions that you're going to do. On Tuesdays, productivity session number 1. Write for an hour. That hour doesn't have to be done all at once. Split it up. Do 15 minutes on your first break at work, 30 minutes on lunch, 15 minutes the second break at work, and you're done before you even get home. Do it 30 minutes in the morning before you leave and 30 minutes when you get back. Maybe that's what it looks like for you. Stay up and do it all at once instead of sleeping while you were binging Netflix, right? But Tuesday, we write for an hour. And I'm joking about the not sleeping, you guys. Self-care and sleep is very important. So please get good sleep. We can't write without adequate sleep and coffee, right? Wednesday, write for another hour. Tuesday, edit what you wrote. Take an hour to get some editing done. That way your editing doesn't fall out the window. Just because you're a hobbyist doesn't mean that you may never want to publish that book. Friday, that's your craft day, that 1 hour day that we talked about, right? Our hour to take a class, to check in with community. And then on Saturday, do a 30-minute wrap up. Refill your creative well that keeps your inspiration going for your writing. Read books that inspire you. Watch movies that inspire you. Scroll through and see the successes from the peers in your community. Do something to reground yourself in why you're doing what you're doing before you launch into the next week. Now, if you were to do this route, this leaves you the ability to split up your daily goals into chunks and still be trackable. And at 1,000 to 2,000 words per hour on average, you could still write a full-length novel in 12 and a half to 25 weeks, which is about every 6 months. That's fantastic, right? While having plenty of time for everything else in your life. If you did this and you write at that pace and you put out 1 or 2 books a year on top of work, on top of family, on top of hanging out with friends without making massive cuts to your lifestyle, that's a huge win. So both the working for business and effectively managing and multitasking your time as a hobbyist can give you time back and actually make the time you do have more productive. Now, challenges like Novel 90 give hobbyists community because it's free. We have free community check-ins and posts in the author base camp. That's underneath the Academy tab in AutoCrit under My Courses. Just go to the Novel 90 base camp. When you sign up, you get access to that for free. So go in there, go chat with your team, check in with your coach. If you're on Team Planner, Kat has milestones you can use for what you should be planning and writing for the challenge. If you're on Team Pantser, Becca has her own tasks for you. If you're on Team Pantser, we have check-in threads you can use every single day if you want to get through writing month. But we have community and coaches to help along the way as you need us. And we're not going to push you to do more than you're comfortable, but we will be here to encourage you and celebrate your wins. Remember, writing is a flexible hobby and a flexible profession. It's one of the main things that draws hobbyist writers to doing this as a full-time income because we set our own hours. We don't have to do 9 to 5 hours if we don't want to. We can split our days up so that we have all afternoon with nothing to do except play with our kids, go to clubs, travel the world, right? And then do this on and off through the trip, through the day. Writing is a flexible hobby and a flexible profession, but it's flexible because we prioritize and manage our time well. And that is what is going to keep us multitasking for that success. So give yourself grace to find the routines that work for you. And if the word routine made you shiver, Becca has a pep talk on the pep talk playlist about routines that work for people who hate writing routines. We're going so much bigger picture in this video today about looking at our author business as a whole. But seriously, find routines that work for you, that fit your life. And don't go into this process of self-discovery thinking you have to have all the answers right from the very beginning. If you try the sample one and it's just not doing it for you, you want more writing time or less writing time, maybe you write faster, maybe you want to do all the writing and then edit like I do. I don't edit every day. Personally, I write extra and then I take days where I don't write to edit. Adjust it. Make the process yours. Share with us in the forums, in the Novel 90 Challenge post. Share what works because we're excited for everybody's process and the unique beauty that makes every single one of us different, but also successful. So it is writing month. This is my friendly reminder to all of you friends, please take the time to go write at least a little, even 10 minutes today, and let us know how you're going to go forward and approach that multitasking in your work. Proud of you. I believe in you. And we can't wait to see where you go in your writing journey. Take care, everybody. Bye.